In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to show you a cool way to use your recyclable materials and also help reduce your waste footprint.
Hey champs. So one of the things that my wife and I really pride ourselves on is our adaptability. Over the years, we've figured out little things, hacks, I think some of the younger people call them, for trying to make sure that we are able to take care of ourselves, even in situations where some resources won't be available, or just so that we can help with our expenses around the farm here at Harbor Acres. So one of the things that I've been experimenting with over the last couple of months that I think has gotten really easy and is a great hack to have is plastic welding. So I got donated recently a bunch of these milk crates, and they were used for another experiment or another craft, and so they have these busted in sides. So I'm worried about the strength of them and whether or not they're going to hold up over time. The other thing that we've got quite a lot of is recyclable plastics. Now you can take them to the recycle center and that's fine, that's a way to take care of them. But I'm going to show you in this video how you can recycle or upcycle them here at home. There are different types of plastics that are out there, and the only thing that you really need to be concerned about when you're using recyclable plastics to fix broken items is that they are like materials. One of the most common plastic materials or petroleum materials that's out there is polyethylenes. So there's low density polyethylenes and there's high density polyethylenes. Well, I've found that it doesn't matter whether they're low or high, they will work to weld together. You just need to check on the temperatures because low density will melt at a much lower point than high density. I believe it's about 250 degrees is what their melting point is. And the big concern about that is that once they get above their melting point, they can start to produce fumes that are harmful to breathe in. So everything that I'm doing here today, you'll see over my right shoulder, I've got vent fans. I've also got a big overhead door that's open with fans going so that it blows the fumes out in case I go a little bit higher with the temperatures. And basically all you need is to have your recycled material. I happen to find one that was pretty close to the same color here. And what I'll do is I'll cut it into sheets like this. This was a white piece of high density polyethylene, or HDPE, which is what milk crates are made out of. And you can see through the one that I've already completed here that it's not pretty, but it does actually melt the two materials together using a simple heat gun, and it creates a nice solid side and fixes those broken areas. I've actually fixed a canoe using this very same method. And all you need is a heat gun. I picked one of these up for $50 or $60. This one ranges up to 1,000 degrees in temperature. And your recyclable materials. What I'll do is actually take my heat gun and put it at about 650 to 700 because that allows me to increase the temperature to 250 very quickly and make the HDPE malleable. And then I can feather it and make sure that I'm pulling the heat away. And then as you'll see in the videos, I'll use a spatula or a scraper tool and then actually push the two materials together. So once I figure out what material I'm going to use, what jug I'm going to use, first thing I do is I try to clear out any contaminants. It doesn't have to be super clean, but there are some contaminants that will mix with there and then you won't get that bonding like you'd like. Next step is I'll take off any labels because that paper will cause issues with it. And again, with the heat gun, you just heat it up, the adhesive gets really tacky and will pull right off. Now you have a nice clear panel that you can use to take a box cutter knife and we'll cut out a patch that will match the size and general shape of what we've got here. So you see here I've got my patch cut. I'll wipe it down a little bit and try to get rid of as many contaminants as possible, and then we'll cut it down even further so that it gets an overlap over where your hole is at. Now notice that this kind of bows out a little bit. I wouldn't worry too much about that because as the HDP heats up, it will start to flatten out. What I like to do sometimes is I'll put a block of wood underneath there, or a material that won't melt as well, and then that provides a flat area so that when I'm working with the HDPE, it will actually conform to that flat surface. For this video, so it's a little bit more viewable, I'm not worried about blocking everything up because I think I can feather the heat enough that it's not going to become so malleable that it will drip or cause problems. All right, so now that I've got the process down a little bit, it only took about 15-20 minutes. The longest part of this process is allowing the item to cool down. Afterwards, you've got the two plastics, the two HDPEs that have melded together. They're going to be very hot for a while. If you've decided to put a flat backing on them, I recommend keeping the backing on there until they cool off. You'll probably end up with a prettier weld. Don't touch it with your hands, obviously, because well, not only is it very hot, but it's also very sticky. That's why I like using the metal spatulas or metal scrapers, because although it will stick while it is at the most extreme temperature, once it cools off, metal and plastic do not combine very well. So, finished product. It is not the prettiest thing. I'm sure it could get prettier if I came up with some sort of clamped mold to flatten it out, or like other people I've seen online where they will heat up in a oven or you know, another method to turn it basically into a putty and then place it in there. But by golly, it works, and it will not get in the way of being able to store. Inside of there, one thing that I noticed, and you probably cannot see it very well, but there was a little bit of material that was hanging out just because this one was a pretty significant break. Well, while it was warm, it was very easy to flip this sucker over and kind of smooth out what was inside of there. But now that it's cool, man, good as new. So thanks for watching, guys. I love y'all, and drink water.